Fighters suck. Fighters are boring. If you want to have fun and not feel useless, play a spellcaster. These are things that are often said in D&D 5th edition circles, and as Wizards of the Coast works on 6th edition, it's time for them to address the martial caster disparity. In my opinion, Pathfinder 2nd edition has solved the problem, not only by making fighters powerful, holding their own next to spellcasters, but by making playing a fighter feel fun and varied. And with this video, I'll show how. I will have 5 first-level human fighters built using only the core rulebook in an actual combat, and I will showcase the diversity of fighters not only in their builds, but also from turn to turn. I also want this to be a guide for players looking for build and tactical tips, and also point out wrong assumptions that players coming from D&D 5th edition and other systems might have that will prevent them from fully enjoying the system. This video will be in 4 parts. Today, I'll give an overview of the fighter and give general build tips. Tomorrow, I'll explain the 5 different level 1 human fighter builds and put them in a combat demonstration. On the 3rd day, I will explain how Pathfinder 2nd edition fixes fighters and makes them strong and fun to play. And in the last video, I will look at the 5 builds as they go into the higher levels. Now to give an overview of the fighter. This is not the boring class, and this is not the simple class. First, I don't think any of the classes in 2E are boring, and if you want a simple class, there are a couple of other classes which are simpler in play, such as the Barbarian. I'll show a list of the core rulebook martials and what they offer. Also, you tend to have more options than I attack in combat in Pathfinder 2E. What distinguishes the fighter is that you are the master of fighting techniques. Instead of choosing a fighting style at level 1, you build your style or styles with the class feats you choose, which are like building blocks. Think Battle Master maneuvers, but they tend to be simpler. Another assumption to shed is that martials are outshone by casters. In D&D 5th edition, casters that are optimized can trivialize the martial characters in the party. But in Pathfinder, you are the king or queen of consistent single target damage. You are tougher than the casters, and you do this while still feeling like a martial. You get 10 hit points from your class every level. You are proficient with all martial weapons, proficient with every class of armor, and your saving throws, your fortitude saving throws and reflex saving throws are excellent. And as you get into higher level, you'll get evasion and what is like evasion for fortitude saves. Next, you are more accurate than any other martial class. That means you will hit more often, and because you get a critical hit when you exceed the AC by 10, you crit more often than any other class. Other martial classes have features that make up for their lower accuracy, but while they are trained in weapon fighting, you are expert, and that is the 2nd degree of proficiency you can attain in Pathfinder 2E. And at 13th level, you become legendary in one weapon group of your choice. I have seen fighters at that level roll a 2 and hit an enemy, or roll a 12 and critically hit an enemy. You also start with 2 ways to use your reaction every round. Most classes don't start with any. You get to do Attack of Opportunity and Shield Block. Attacks of Opportunity are more powerful than opportunity attacks in 5e. A creature simply leaving a square that you threaten, you can attack. Or a creature trying to manipulate something like a door or cast a spell with their hands, you can not only hit them as a reaction, but if you critically hit, you can disrupt that action and make a spellcaster lose their spell. You can also make an attack when someone tries to do a ranged attack. Shield Block is a way to soak damage with your shield. You get to make a unique fighting style with the feats that you choose and the weapons. Then as you level up, just like every other class, you get 1 or 2 feats every level, you get ability boosts every 5 levels, and you get numerous skill increases. As a fighter, you also get special abilities with your weapons and armor, and as you get to the mid and higher levels, you'll get the opportunity to prepare a fighter feat or 2 every morning. Now for general build advice. You'll see a big difference between this and D&D fighter guides in that you don't stop making important decisions with your build. In Pathfinder, it's far more important the decisions you make in battle than what you make before battle. My first tip is to start Pathfinder at level 1. You will have enough abilities to learn, and you will see that in the combat demonstration. So choosing an ancestry. We've limited this exercise to human fighters and using the core rulebook, but I will say this, in that you can do well with any ancestry in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You want to have a +4 in your main attack ability score, whether that's strength or dexterity, and you can choose any ancestry in Pathfinder and get that. The reason is the default method for generating ability scores in Pathfinder, which is that you start with 10s in every stat, and you go through 4 steps: ancestry, background, class, and don't forget your 4 boosts, A, B, C, D. You get boosts during this process, which increase your score by 2 and your modifier by 1. And within each step, you cannot increase the same stat more than once. Some ancestries give you an ability flaw, like a halfling gives you a flaw in strength, lowers it from 10 to 8. But you can still be a halfling and get an 18 strength because of the voluntary flaw system. Voluntary flaws are something you do during the first ancestry step, which lets you take 2 flaws in exchange for 1 boost, which can go wherever you want, so long as your scores stay within that band of 8 to 12. That said, some ancestries are more brutish than others, like orcs, hobgoblins, and dwarves, but their strengths are not so good that they make them automatic picks. Human fighters are perfectly fine and are solid because of the bonus feats that they can get at first level. In addition to your ancestry, you get a heritage, which is like a sub-race in 5e, and you get an ancestry feat. In the combat demo, I will go over each fighter's choices there. Ability scores look the same as in D&D, they have the same names, but they operate slightly differently. First of all, dexterity is not a god stat that gives you bonuses in everything, including damage with dexterity-based weapons. To do more damage, you want more strength. Intelligence is important if you want to have more skills and be good at recalling knowledge. Wisdom is good for your perception stat, which is the most common way you will roll initiative, and is also responsible for your mental defense. Charisma is important if you want to use your personality in battle in Pathfinder. Note that you want to have your strength and dexterity modifiers be at least 5 if possible, and I'll explain why in a minute. Next is your background, and really just choose one based on your character concept. It won't hobble your character. What each background does is it gives you 1 boost that must be one of 2 different specific ability scores, and a second boost that will go somewhere that you choose. It also gives you proficiency in a skill, proficiency in a lore skill, and a skill feat. The one thing you might want to keep in mind is that if you want to make one of your ability scores that is not your attack score really high, to choose a background that lets you boost that score plus your strength or dexterity. You also get a class feat at level 1. As I said, you don't pick a fighting style in Pathfinder 2e. You choose class feats that help you in one or more styles. But the core rulebook does give you sample builds for how to go for different archetypes, giving you suggested feats, ability scores, and skills to be trained in. The book presents the bully, someone who wields a 2-handed weapon who wants to push people around in battle, a duelist who fights with a 1-handed weapon and has a free hand, and a archer who wants to fight with a bow. In the combat demonstration, I will also present a sword and board fighter, so weapon and shield, and a 2-weapon fighter. And in the combat demo, I'll go over each build's choice. Also important to your fighting style is your weapon choice. And in Pathfinder, there are more important things about a weapon than their damage die and damage type. They have 1 or more traits that distinguish them from each other. They also have a weapon group, which, and when a martial character does a critical hit with them, determines what special ability you get to use with them. And fighters get to unlock those effects at level 5 with 1 weapon group. There are no clear winners or losers. Just ask yourself what kind of fighter you want to be. The only thing I would say is to get a melee and ranged option just in case. I'll go over different weapons in the combat demo. For armor, you can choose light, medium, or heavy armor. And if you made sure that your strength and dexterity modifiers added up to at least 5, you should be able to get the maximum armor class of 18 at level 1. All of the heavier armors have a different maximum amount of dexterity you can use to contribute to your armor class. Shields do not give a passive bonus to armor class. As we'll see in the combat demo, you have to spend an action to raise it. Next is skills, and if you come from another system, you'll be having more skills than you may be used to. If you have an average intelligence of 10, you will be starting trained in 6 skills. Higher intelligence will give you more skill proficiencies. Skills are powerful in Pathfinder because they have defined uses, and as you level up, you get to increase them more and unlock more and more powerful skill feats. Common skills for fighters are athletics, which is what you use to do combat maneuvers like disarm, trip, shove, and grapple. And you use that to climb and swim. Acrobatics lets you tumble through enemy spaces and balance. Stealth lets you hide and sneak around the battlefield. Remember that Pathfinder is generous with ability scores. At level 1, you get to boost 4 different ability scores of your choice, and you get to do the same every 5 levels after. So consider some of the skills that are based on your mental stats. One thing to be mindful of when building your character is to have a strong third action, is what the community is calling them. The 3-action economy gives you the option of attacking 3 times per turn, but that's often not advised because every attack after the first becomes less and less accurate. So having a third action is shorthand for having other things to do on your turn that do not incur the multiple attack penalty. Things like knowledge skills to recall the weaknesses or special abilities of enemies. Those are Arcana, Nature, Religion, and Occultism. Deception lets you feint or create diversions in combat to make yourself hidden. Intimidation lets you demoralize enemies. Medicine lets you take up the role of being a healer, and if you take a specific skill feat, you can even heal in the middle of combat. Crafting is important if you have a shield and are using it to absorb damage in combat, and crafting could be on you or another party member. You also get starting equipment, and the core rulebook gives suggestions for each class on page 289. So subscribe to the channel if you want to follow this series. In tomorrow's video, I will explain the 5 different level 1 human fighter builds and put them through a combat demonstration. If you want to see other combats, check out some earlier videos I made, one of a level 1 party that includes a fighter facing a level 3 giant scorpion. That video also features that you can have a solo boss creature in Pathfinder 2e and it still be tense and balanced. And I also have another video of a level 20 party featuring a fighter facing a boss level 24 red dragon. If you're interested in checking out Pathfinder 2e, definitely check out the beginner box, and also the rules are all free online. Lastly, join my Discord, link is in the video description. There's a great community there. And also support my Patreon, which will also give you early access to the other parts of this video series, as well as to most of my future videos. So that's it. I'm Ronald, the Rules Lawyer, and I'll see you next time.